Was it for?
The Protagonist Show. I'm Dan Vaughn. It's another Thursday night, wherever you're at, whatever day it is. Welcome to the show. As I mentioned, I'm Dan Vaughn. My lovely co-host sitting next to me virtually, Mr. Joshua Duder. Welcome to the show, sir.
I mean, people can't tell, but I am really right next to you.
Oh, I looked the wrong way, didn't I? Good times. How's your Thursday going today, buddy?
Today has been, it's a Thursday. Listen, I got a job that requires a remarkable amount of brain processing power, and I move my body very, very little. So when I'm wiped out, it's just because my brain is wiped out, but my body's fine. I'm kicking.
My body. Okay, excellent. Yeah. Well, I think I do the opposite of you. My work requires very little brain power, but a lot of walking, which is okay. It's good for fat boys to get up and move around.
Ooh, I need a better job then.
I'm not saying it's a better job, buddy. I'm just saying it is a different,
more active job.
I feel that. that. Well, it's the Protagonist Show. 3 topics, a couple of recommendations, an off topic, and we're out of here.
Boom, bam.
Easy peasy. Well, thank you, listener / viewer, for hanging out with us. If you're listening to the show on our podcast feed, we also carry the show on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, we've also got a podcast feed that's full of all kinds of content about lower league soccer, different leagues, different topics, all kinds of chatter going on. You are cordially invited to join us. We're having a conversation and would like you to join too. Josh, the Open Cup. I think we've talked about this thing for the last 4 episodes that we've done. Are we done talking about it now?
Dan, we could list the results of Major League Soccer's games as they go on, but honestly, they don't need any help from us. They've got The Athletic. They've got great internal league coverage, as we are aware of. So I want to move on to this Riverhounds game, if that's okay with you. They were our last hook to hang our very particular hat on, and it was a very precarious hat and hook at best. Riverhounds sit 8th in the USL Championship's Eastern Conference. They won back-to-back games back in March, but have been unable to score more than 1 goal in a match since then, and have been shut out 4 of the last 8 games leading up to this comprehensive loss. Dan, Philly outshot the Riverhounds 15-7, had 61% possession, outpassed them 522 to 343, more fouls, 17-12, yellows, 2-1, offsides, 3-1. The Union earned twice as many corners, 6-3. With all of the non-MLS teams now knocked out, are we doing this great competition a disservice by not covering MLS's progression?
Dude, here's the thing. Our coverage doesn't justify the existence of this cup any more than other people's non-coverage. The competition is great, regardless of if people are watching, regardless of if they schedule it on Wednesdays and people don't show up to matches, regardless of the way MLS has sort of disrespected in the way that they've treated this cup, regardless of all that. And let's be real, our coverage focuses on lower league soccer. And so we approach the cup through that lens. There are plenty of MLS coverage options that people could tune into that'll give you the coverage you might want to. And listen, I'm not going to ignore who wins. I just might not talk about it. It's not what we do. What about you?
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head. Honestly, I probably stopped watching last round. I was hoping, that maybe Riverhounds could do something, but like I said, there's lots of really talented writers and podcasters. I'm not trying to disparage any of their work. It's just not what I do or follow in my day-to-day basis.
I saw today, I think on Blue Sky, someone posted a graphic showing going into the round of, I want to say it was the semifinals. I think it was. So I guess 8 teams. No, semifinals. That would be the quarterfinals. Going into the quarterfinals. Sorry, I'll get there eventually. math hard. Going into the quarterfinals, how many times or how many of each club was going into those rounds? And this year there'll be no championship sides going into that.
Right.
Last year we got 5 MLS and 3 championship, which I think might have been the highest number in quite a while. And I think we may have mentioned it on the show before. Jake Sillick was talking about the fact that, like, it's just how the ball bounces sometimes. You can't when you are rooting for underdogs and upsets, sometimes they happen, and it's not to say that every match couldn't be that. Just, you don't know how things are going to go out, but like you mentioned that the Riverhounds got to this point, but the reality is they're not a very good football team right now. And that's showing in their own league against competition at their level. Going up against an MLS side, and maybe it makes sense that they lose 4-1. Is there a velociraptor in your house?
I think my dog got into a bone.
But needless to say is that when you're rooting for upsets, you can't count on them to happen. And that's why you cheer for them. If it was, I think about that run that Sacramento had a couple of years back. That was the stuff of dreams right there. Like we got all the way to the final with a team to root for, and that just isn't going to happen all that often.
No, it kept us looped in. But let me ask you this. It was noted that Philly had an empty stadium. Yeah, it happens, right? Is the competition the problem, Dan, or is the midweek game the problem, and that Chester is a half-hour drive from downtown Philly? Like, is location an issue? But it seemed to be sort of problematic with multiple games. So is this like MLS fans not valuing the competition? Is this MLS teams, do they need to work better with the U.S. Open Cup committee and schedule these games on weekends and sort of stretch the regular season out a little bit to make it count?
Does MLS need to play fair with a competition that's existed 4 times as long as their league has existed? Yes, that is always the answer. However, I think that the disrespect of the fans not showing up is because their league disrespects the cup. There's no respect in the cup. It's seen as an obligation rather than a privilege. And I will tell you, I feel like when you watch championship sides, they get up for this thing. They get excited about it. I'm not saying that we don't oftentimes see a midweek match get lesser than desired attendance. But I will say that those fans come excited and often show up and want to deliver an upset against the MLS side. It's honestly, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but the reality is that the lower seeded team should be the one hosting, except in the most extreme situations. If it's because of scheduling or because of a stadium's not available for some reason, I get that. But aside from that, the reality is that the lower league team should be hosting. It gives you a better advantage for I think a desirable atmosphere. And I would argue that even an MLS player would want to play in front of a fired up crowd, even if it's against them. And, you mentioned that Philadelphia, the stadium is outside, the downtown. They have no problem filling it up for MLS games. So that is not to say that fans don't show up for these games, for their club. It's that they don't value the Open Cup and they're not excited about the Riverhounds coming to play them. And let's be honest, it was a 4-1 spanking from Philadelphia. And the reality is that the competition wasn't up to their standard. Should they still be excited about it? I say yes, but I'm not on their side of this. Their league has basically endorsed this particular viewpoint of this competition, which is only show up if you absolutely have to. Well, the fans are only showing up when they absolutely have to.
Little kid groups from elementary schools with free tickets.
Josh, let me ask you, as we talk about sort of the end of our focus, let's say focus, it doesn't mean we won't be interested in who wins, but the end of our focus of this Open Cup, what are your thoughts on it overall?
This year's particular iteration or the cup in general?
I think this year, this 2024-25 Cup.
I think you spoke to it well. I can't remember who you quoted, but basically you said, sometimes that's the chalk, right? Sometimes this is the cup we got this year. There were a lot of really interesting stories in the first couple of rounds. The qualifiers from August, September, and October last year were really fun. These are the teams that I really care about. I think these are teams that are run by people that you can call up and have on your podcast, right? They are involved in what we do. You had a really interesting interview on the W League show, and being able to just call somebody up from Buffalo and say, hey, you want to hop on a pod? Those are the kind of people that you and I just really we enjoy speaking to. I think that MLS, they make themselves so distant from the product and they're unaccessible, and it's just not as enjoyable for me. So we had a lot of great stories early on. At this point, I don't wish anybody any ill will. Whoever wins, but I won't be watching.
Yeah, I think that there were plenty of matches early on that were more exciting, but this year felt more chalk than anything. And the person that you were quoting that I quoted was Jake Sillick. I believe that's how you say his name. He works with the Cup.us, does a lot of good work for them. But yeah, the reality is that sometimes you eat the bear and sometimes the bear, it eats you.
Is it a gummy bear, though? Before we move on to the next topic, Dan, I just wanted to read a quote from friend of Protagonist, Colton Qureshi. He contributed several previews to our articles throughout the opening rounds, and his perspective on this result for the Riverhounds is worth sharing. The positives in this performance came from showing that they can generate some meaningful offense and chances against some really tough defensive lines. It's a thing they need to figure out, and they showed more signs of life there. So hopefully the Riverhounds can build on that going forward, similar to the 2023 U.S. Open Cup run for them and the Player Shield winning season. Now, it's all about translating that into league play and more consistency. So I hope to see some positivity for Riverhounds going forward in their league play. And let's not forget about the USL Cup. They're still involved in that. So that'll be really fun to see them progress in that competition as well.
Love that positivity coming out of it. Come on, why not? It's all you can do. Sometimes that's all you got. That's all you got. Let's go to topic 2, Mr. Duder. Liga MX. If you might remember this story, it came out. It was kind of a big deal during the COVID year. There was plenty going on there, and that year, Liga MX announced that they would be suspending promotion relegation during the. I don't remember them having a specific time. Turns out it was 6 years. That was the term that they voted on. 6 years they would suspend promotion relegation. And over those last 6 years, it seems that the 10 teams up top kind of like it, not having to worry about dropping down. Well, it's been reported by Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic that the all 10 of Liga Expansión, I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's expansion, but it's in Spanish. Forgive me for that. Have filed suit for them to reinstate promotion relegation. And let's be honest, the 6 years are over, and certainly COVID was a challenging time for a lot of leagues. And the thought was that they were going to create stability up top and that some of the League Two teams might not be ready to go up. And so there was a lot going on. Now, I saw in an article on Yahoo, an anonymous Liga MX executive is quoted, in Mexican football, there are monopolistic practices and corruption where several clubs got together and vote against a free market, establish guidelines, statutes, and agreements. We have to clean up football and work together. We began to realize that there were people who were not going to keep their word, and that's when they began this process. Josh, you and I are both obviously pro-rel. You might not say that we're zealots. I certainly wouldn't say that we're zealots. It's not a word that I like to use. Maybe to describe other people, not so much myself. And so in some ways, there's no meat there. We all know how we feel about it and whether or not we think there should be promotion relegation in Liga MX.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. We both do. Done. Go on to the next topic. But the question is, will this suit succeed? Will the Liga MX 2 be able to force promotion relegation back into the system where it had been before?
I think if you're familiar with a recent lawsuit that NASL, I believe that was the league that had a pending lawsuit longer than still pending. And I think that was long. They're appealing, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that was in process longer than the league actually existed. Remember that Pro Rel previously existed in the Mexican system before being paused for COVID, as you noted. So there's a precedence for its existence, Dan. Additionally, these clubs can prove that they are suffering financially by the inability to expand operations, by the top tier holding a monopoly, as the anonymous source quoted. So I think that unlike what we have here, there is a history of that system existing and an argument to be had that it should be upheld.
I think what is interesting is there is an undercurrent here of changes happening within the Mexican Football Federation. And I don't know if you remember this, but some, which used to run the marketing for US Soccer, was also doing the Mexican Federation.
I didn't know that, but it makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. It's why there were so many friendlies between Mexico and the US, because it was big money for everyone.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, Don Garber and the MLS crew have sort of they're buddying up with Liga MX. They're trying to share practices. They're trying to launch competitions between the leagues that aren't overseen by FIFA, but are instead overseen by them. There's a lot going on there. And I wonder how much is that stain of American soccer or the American soccer system, which there are plenty of critics domestically for that league, but there are lots of critics outside of that would argue Liga MX should not go down that path. Will it cost Liga MX if they do suspend promotion relegation indefinitely? Like, is there going to be any kind of backlash against them?
I mean, I can't quote anything that seems like right in that same wheelhouse, but further on in that article that came out in The Athletic this week, there was a similar situation in Ecuador involving player eligibility and false documentation. That impacted their national team. It was a FIFA violation, and they suffered a 3-point deduction in qualifications. Additionally, were fined $101,605 and some change. I think that was probably a translations from pesos to dollars.
I was going to say that's a very specific number.
Yeah. But will it cost Liga MX? Probably. If FIFA steps in, if they step in, but they haven't so far in the United States, and they may look at that relationship that Don Garber has carved out with soccer in the United States, and the officials of Liga MX may say, we're just trying to do a similar situation, and they may get away with it. Yeah. So maybe FIFA steps in, maybe they don't.
Yeah, it's really tough. Look, far be it for me to decide winners and losers in soccer, and the owners of Liga MX 2 are probably not the innocent heroes in this story either. I'm sure there's plenty going on here, but it is frustrating to watch big money kind of corrupt the game is what it is. But the question is, has it always corrupted the game? And it's frustrating because promotion relegation is a means of holding bad owners accountable and rewarding good owners, rewarding good soccer teams and penalizing bad soccer teams. And if you ran a federation and if you ran a league, you should want those things because it will create the best possible football for fans to watch. And that makes your league better. That makes it more attractive for advertisers. It makes it more attractive for free agent signings. It makes it more attractive for fans. Those are the things that you want. And promotion relegation is a means to that end. But it is also, again, the penalty for bad ownership is something that bad owners fear. And if you give them the ability to make a decision on whether or not they have to deal with that threat, deal with that sort of, the carrot, the stick, dealing with the stick and not with the carrot, I get it, but it's frustrating to watch as a fan. And while I'm no Liga MX fan, I've loved to see how they're developing the women's game. That's been something that I've enjoyed. And then on top of that, like they're a model super close to us, doing things in ways like Europe has done things that we herald as soccer fans. And the last thing I want is for someone to follow the lead of a league who is doing the opposite of that in the United States. It's just frustrating.
It seems like it's all about money. It's all just run by the idea of the wealthiest people. They don't attain wealth by giving up opportunities to other people, right? So they want to close the system and retain the money for themselves, regardless of sporting merit.
Yeah,
it's no fun. It's less fun.
Absolutely.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Dan, I did want to read this as well. Club officials Miguel Angel Gil of Atletico San Luis, which I think is like I think they operate with Atletico, one of the Atletico teams in Spain, said that even though Mexico has a history with promotion relegation, we're thinking about future U.S. investment in Mexican football, and they view MLS's closed system as ideal for isolating financial opportunities for clubs already in the top division. And I would say that idolization probably acts as affirmation that MLS owners are doing things great for money. It's even though there's a loud public calling for pro rel in the U.S., the money is even louder, Dan Vaughn. The money speaks.
Boo. Let's leave this topic. I'm not happy.
You got it. How about one I think that you're very familiar with, Dan Vaughn? The USL Super League. It's nearing playoffs. Dan, the Super League is it's a successful inaugural regular season. We should all be listening to the Super League show, but can you give us the lay of the land of this league?
That's right. Why aren't you listening to the Super Show? Come on, buddy. This is the best podcast about the Super League in the world. I'm very, very frustrated. No, I'm just joking. We are on the cusp of the first playoff in the USL Super League, and I think there's plenty of fun things. If you haven't been plugged in, now is the time to plug in. Now is the time to sign up for Peacock. So if you've let that subscription lapse, come on, you can sign up for a month. It won't hurt you. It might hurt you a little bit, but the Premier League. Okay. Let's get back to the Super League. So the Super League. The Super League is now, we are actually in the second to last week, the penultimate week of the regular season. And there is so much movement right now, or potential movement, who's in the playoffs and who's out. Currently, Carolina Ascent, who has played spectacularly in the second half, I think only has one loss in the entire second half of the season, has played their way into the top seed. They are locked in. They're not going anywhere. They have one match left to play. And do they have 2 matches left to play? They have 2 matches left to play. 2 matches left to play. And they are in the catbird seat, so to speak. They got nothing to worry about. Tampa Bay Sun is sitting second, and they are also locked into a playoff spot. They could still end up in the third or fourth spot because there's only 4 playoff spots going into the playoffs. But it is they are a playoff lock. That leaves, and I can count them off for you. Spokane Zephyr, which I'm a big fan of, love what they're doing. Dallas Trinity, which is, if you listen to the Super Show, Danielle Goronsky, big fan. Brooklyn FC, and then finally Fort Lauderdale United. Those are all 4 teams sitting in the middle that have a chance at making to the playoffs, depending on what happens over the next 2 weeks. Of note, Fort Lauderdale United is the big spoiler here, sitting at 38 points and very capably could jump a couple of teams because they've got 2 matches left to play. The cool thing is both of those 2 matches are against potential playoff teams. This weekend on Saturday, they'll play Dallas Trinity. More about that in a minute. And then next week, Spokane Zephyr, which is another extra hot team headed towards the playoffs, is playing excellent soccer and super fun to watch. Brooklyn FC is the one that's probably out of luck here. And it's a shame because when we came out of the first half of the season, they were actually sitting in the number 1 seed spot. And then over the course of the second half of the season, basically starting in, I guess, March up until now, they have 1 win in the entire run. It has been an awful second half. They've fired their coach. They've had all kinds of issues. They've had to change stadiums. I spoke to one of their players. That article, fingers crossed, could be out tomorrow. I'm working on it. Mackenzie George, really talented player out of the University of Tennessee, who played most recently in Iceland, but now is playing here for Brooklyn FC, talked about it with me. But it has been a chaotic second half, and they have really suffered, and it is probably too late for them. It would take a lot of mechanizations is the word I'm looking for them to lose or be able to get in, unfortunately. Which doesn't mean they've had a bad season. It just means they, unfortunately, the second half killed them. They had a great first season, had a bad second half season. But that leads me to my viewing recommendation. And I'll get to that in just a second. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about the season overall. How great has it been? I think the TV deal with Peacock was fantastic. Enough people have Peacock thanks to the English Premier League. Enough people have it for that they end up there's opportunity. And when you say, hey, this match is on Peacock, someone goes, oh, I've got Peacock, I can watch that match. The coverage has been good. USL delivers generally a pretty good show. I think they do need to add a studio show. I think that would go a long way, and it's not that hard to produce something like that. Hey, look at us. Why not us? Danielle Goronsky talks about this all the time. So there's that. So I think the TV deal with Peacock has done well. I worry about sustainability because a lot of these clubs are independent clubs, meaning that they don't have a men's side on the other side as well. And while women's soccer is growing in popularity, there are certain markets where a brand new league has trouble finding legs. And some of these clubs, I would argue, didn't find the best homes. Dallas Trinity, while they are very well funded by very powerful people in Dallas, playing in the Cotton Bowl is a bad idea, in my opinion. It's too big of a stadium. Now, a team like Lexington Sporting Club, that's a team that has a soccer-specific stadium where they League One in the championship. The championship now. They used to be League One, right? Yeah. That's a perfectly sized stadium. Doesn't always fill up for the women, but it's a perfectly sized stadium.
Doesn't need
to. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that there's going to be questions about sustainability that some of these clubs need to answer. I would love to see more championship clubs add a women's side. I think that's a natural thing to do to create a complete club as compared to just a men's side. And so I think there's opportunities there. We do have another expansion side next season, Jacksonville Sporting Jacks. They're coming in. So that'll boost the number of teams in the league. There's more on the horizon. I know that there are teams currently playing in the W League that are in talks or have plans to make the jump. So I think there's that. I do worry a little bit about some of the management on some of these clubs. I think of maybe my most worried, or the one that worries me the most, is Brooklyn FC. I know they're about to launch a championship. They're about to launch a championship side, but they just had a really rough season. I know there have been some changes in the front office. I know they cycled through a coach. I just want to make sure that everything is well. Now, USL tends to manage their teams pretty well and typically avoids anything super bad, super black eye inducing from happening. But that does worry me. But overall, it's been a fantastic year. I would say, if you haven't listened to the Super Show, check it out. It's on the Spotify feed or wherever you get your podcast feed from us. But we're about to 2 weeks from now, we'll have on Amanda Vandervoort, who is the president of USL Super League, the commish. She's awesome. She'll come on and talk about the season that was and look forward to the playoffs with us. So I think it's going to be super fun. I know that Danielle is going to be fangirling as it is.
I think we all will be. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We had the good privilege of meeting Amanda at the United Coaches Conference a couple years ago. Fantastic individual, lots of great energy. She's the right person to be in charge of that league.
I would argue, 100% that she
Yeah.
brings a particular set of skills that I think they've been honed for this kind of job, and she is passionate about the Super League, and I think that goes a long way too. Well, Josh, I talked about the Super League. Let me go ahead and make a viewing recommendation, because why not? I mentioned that Fort Lauderdale could be spoiler here and charging up the stands, but I will tell you this match against Dallas Trinity on Saturday is an absolute big one. And the reason why is because so many other dominoes will fall based off the result here. Should Fort Lauderdale win, chaos. And it's going to lead not just chaos this week, but next week as well, as we exit out the season. Who is going to end up in the playoffs and who's not? If Fort Lauderdale wins, it's going to get wild in the final week of the season. However, if Dallas Trinity wins, it will almost certainly eliminate Fort Lauderdale United and lock up those top 4 spots pretty much. If I've done my math correctly, and I am an English major, so I should be careful in saying that, it looks to me that should Dallas Trinity win that match, I think the playoff will be set, and that last week will just be a chance to warm up the legs and get ready for the playoffs. But I think you should be watching it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Dan, for me, I'm going to be watching if I can find a stream for it, Troy United versus Liquid Football in the Midwest Premier League. It's back. The Midwest Premier League is in action. The Michigan Stars, if you wondered where the Michigan Stars ended up, they're top of the table in the Great Lakes Conference East Division of the Midwest Premier League, Dan Vaughn. That's where the Michigan Stars are. Then there's Liquid Football in Inter Detroit. This is a powerhouse of a division. Liquid beat Inter 4-2 on Wednesday and could go top if they beat Troy at home this Sunday. Stars have the weekend off. Also in the Midwest Premier League this weekend is DeKalb County at Bavarian and Chicago House at Green Bay Glory. I also wanted to give a shout out, and I didn't put this on the notes, but I dropped an article today on protagonist.soccer.com about the Brandy Chastain Cup. It's a brand new 4-team tournament. This is its inaugural season. It pits the WPSL, the USLW League, UWS, and the National Amateur Cup champions against each other in a 4-team tournament. And tonight is the first game with California Storm visiting Salt Lake City for that first semifinal. And the next one is the Ivy of USLW League, and they will be playing against the New England Mutiny. So keep an eye out for streams and dates and times of that going forward.
I love interleague cups.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
I am all for it. Yeah, absolutely. Saw that article. I saw you did a lot of chatting with people involved with it. So very, very cool. Josh, thank you for that. Yeah, protagonstsoccer.com. I also wrote an article about the Super League playoffs. So if you want to double dip, you can head over there as well.
Get in there.
Yeah, why not? Well, if we're going to, why don't we go off topic? And I'm going to do it first time this, Josh. I believe in you, by the way. You can do it this time, I believe. Well, let's do it for me. Last week with Jason Davis on the show, I talked about Eddie Hamel and his story playing for Ajax in the 1920s and then disappearing during the Holocaust. I want to recommend to you the podcast Bell Hamel. I listened to it over the week. It was put out by Jim McGough. It's such a great podcast to really introduce you to the key players in the 20s and 30s in Ajax football and what happened during the Nazi regime. I'd recommend it. Just saying.
Well, that's next on my list, Dan. So I will get to it.
They're very digestible, is how I might say that.
Very exciting.
Yeah. I would really, really recommend. Joshua Duder, you're up, buddy.
Dan, I want to make the U.S. Open Cup truly open. I reached out on a couple different social media platforms today, and I asked the question, why do we require Major League Soccer teams to even be involved? If the fans don't want to be there, if the owners don't want to be there, let this WWE outfit of a sporting league take a hike. And when expansion in the USL system opens up, let it be an all USL and amateur soccer affair. Let it be the Open Cup.
Wow. Joshua Duder, shots fired, buddy.
Yeah.
WWE League.
Yeah, it's manufactured. It's not a. I mean, they're really playing, but like it's so controlled. Is it fun? It's fun if it's your local team. But is it fun to watch as a neutral?
don't disagree with you. Joshua Duder, that's it for this episode. I was going to tell you, or I was going to mention, shout out to my daughter's club team. She plays for El Paso Locomotive. They're headed off for the Sandia Cup, which is a big regional cup competition for all the youth soccer clubs. Are headed to Albuquerque, which I enjoy the high desert, and it's also the home of Breaking Bad and all of the things that go along with that. But I like Albuquerque quite a bit. I'm a big fan. And the drive through New Mexico is very desert, but it's very beautiful.
You like those mountains.
You know what? Keep your eye out. I talk even more about how much I love those mountains.
Yes,
big fan. Joshua Duder, thank you so much for being on the show, brother. You crushed it. This has been TPS. Hope you had a great time, because I certainly did. Have a good one. We're out.